here, ever got here. We let the little things pile up. We fence ourselves in. Sometimes you gotta tear it all down, start over again. Put the key in and drive. Send your mind on down the road. Pass everything you know. Turn your wheels and go just to ride. Put some blacktop in front of you. Let those white lines run under you. Heading for somewhere. Leaving something behind just to ride. We could burn across the desert. See those Vegas lights. Take a drive down Main Street. People do it all the time. People do it all the time. Cruise up to the mountains. Get close to the stars. If you find yourself unhappy where you are, just get in your car and drive. Send your mind on down the road. Pass everything you know. Turn your wheels and go just to ride. Put some blacktop in front of you. Let those white lines run under you. Heading for somewhere. Leaving something behind just to ride. It don't matter at all, just to ride. It don't matter at all, just to ride. It don't matter at all, just to
Before I bring you my guest, I just want to play another video from that time. You might remember this.
Governments fail to respect people's rights, we all end up paying.
Right here started off as a convoy, and now it's brought people from coast to coast in this country, the United States, and around the globe.
It's really encouraging to finally see a representation of what so many of us have been feeling for so long. It brings us to tears.
With this mandate, he is no longer able to provide for his family.
So lockdowns are more dangerous than the so-called COVID.
I'm just here for everybody's freedom. They're saying that we're white supremacists. They're saying that we're racist. I haven't seen any of that.
We don't want to live by fear anymore. We want to live by love and freedom.
I'm coming.
People are standing up. They've had enough. For the first time in 2 years, they're coming together. They're united. They want their country back.
On February the 12th, a lot Australians went to Canberra for a biggest march, the biggest protest in Canberra history, maybe even Australia. Australians came from all around the country to converge on Canberra. But on, I think it was January the 22nd, that's where it really started. And that was inspired by our Canadian brothers and sisters with the truckers convoy, which became like a beacon of hope. for the entire world, and we responded. So I've got Kris Eriksen coming on from Canada. We're going to talk about that and other things, looking at the parallels between our country from then till now. So let's bring him on. Hey, Kris. So thank you for joining us. It's well, it's not late for you, but it's early for me, and I'm not sure what time it is. Maybe the middle of the day.
Yeah, it's 1 p.m. Thanks for having me, man. It's an honor. I look forward to this discussion.
Yeah, look, I have to say, can I just ask first, because I'm always just intrigued by this. COVID has changed our lives. So literally, we could be BC before COVID and after COVID. BC, AC. Before COVID, you heard of COVID. What were you doing? What can you even remember what your life was?
I just honestly, I'd been I was a political troubleshooter. I'd worked for the BC legislature, for the Speaker of the BC legislature in 2018, and then 2019. I took a couple of contracts, as a troubleshooter, a liaison. One of those things. I was a problem solver.
Okay.
And late 2019, I'm like, I've been in this for a long time. I'm in my early 40s. I hadn't dated in 15 years. I was very committed to the game. I thought, December was, I'll retire. December 2019, I'll retire and start focusing on me, right? 3 months later, okay, my world was inverted. I woke up and I wanted to go out and like shake, ask a stranger, is this still planet Earth? Right? You have that moment of dissociation in the beginning. So that's kind of what I was doing. I was going to take all the skill sets I developed as a, I had a backstory, right? I have a social work diploma. I've done a lot of community organizing. I've been a team leader for security and was lead hand for infection control at one point, which we could touch on as far as my wake up point with the masks. But yeah, it was just one of those things. I'll put all my tools in my toolkit and start again, reinvent yourself. I think is, a lot of people do that. I got tired of the 10 to 12 hour days and in a basement with peanut butter sandwiches and coffee, going through documents, trying to hold people accountable. And that's it. That was it for me. When it first hit, it was bad because I had about 2,000 contacts on my phone. People started calling me all the time because I was an independent. I was kind of, I walked under bridges. I ran down dark alleys when I heard screams. I was very much a man of the people in that sense. And people started showing up and calling nonstop. And then I turned my phone off and people started showing up at my house. And I eventually said to my mom, I got to change because there's nothing I can do. The BC Human Rights Commission wasn't even taking complaints. I felt so powerless. So it was time to relocate. And so I moved out into the Okanagan in British Columbia, which is a beautiful place surrounded by mountains in between two lakes, to start the healing process. And 3-4 years later, it's a nonstop journey with healing because we're not out of it. I don't think we're even close to being out of it. It's something changed, man.
I am with you. I mean, I actually got quite emotional then watching the truckers and watching, especially when you hear the people talking. There's that black guy saying there's no racism here because they will be seen as racists, rednecks, anti-vaxxers. Cookers is the thing they call us now in Australia. And the latest one that they're hitting home is sovereign citizens, which doesn't actually exist. But they're using that to demonize us in order. I actually think they're using it not to so much demonize us, but to attack us in a way to control the rest of the population. You want us to do this to you, then you shut up. And that's so. This is what I'm interested in, the parallels of the country now. The other thing, and we owe you Canadians a great thanks for what happened with the truckies. We tried to do the same truck thing over here, except what we found was that we don't have truckies over here who own their own trucks. So they're all corporate owned. So we couldn't have a truckers convoy. So our convoy to Canberra was just ordinary people that came. We even had when they went to go back to, say, WA, they couldn't get there. They had a refugee camp in a town called Sejuna of people who couldn't get back to their own state because they hadn't jabbed up. So it was extraordinary times. But let's go back to the Canadians. Talk about how brutal the government was at cracking down at them, because I think whoever was behind all of this knew that the Canadians were this close from liberating the whole world because the amount of hope they were spreading. So talk about how brutal they were in the crackdown, bank closures and stuff.
Yeah, it was well, I can start just with the base level of touching on what you said in regards to it came down to a lot of the public policing each other. It wasn't really like the government would put it out. The people would get their marching orders similar to what we saw with Elbows Up. The Canadian people seem a large portion of the Canadian people, not all. There's a ton. There's millions of us that aren't like that. But those that are very easily programmed to see the other and be fearful. And that's what it was. The beginning was the fear. I think you probably saw it in Australia as well too. Every day the case counts, and it was hammered and hammered. And then they slowly creeped in with the vaccine passports, which led, I mean, the convoy was about, stop the mandates and stuff, but it was people like me. I was this close, right? You mentioned February 12th. That was when my first X account was shut down. I had around 20,000 followers. I couldn't go because I had responsibilities, but I was this close to this is the moment, right? And it took about 3 days of seeing the people on the overpasses. Like I'm sitting here going, we had a year and a half of what is this reality, right? Was I dropped on a different planet? And then you saw the overpasses, and it took about 3 days for me. And I'm like, okay, I can feel it in my heart. I'm warm, right? I'm like, okay, this is it. And the sad part is like, you saw the communications between the government, like they were starting to compare it to the January 6th thing before anything really had even gotten going. And then you saw the bouncy castles, and you saw the kids, the hockey, the music, the barbecues, the outdoor hot tubs. And to me, that is Canadian, right? In the middle of winter, right? What better way to send a message of, we want to come together, but they were all peaceful. Yeah, you had a couple of people that, but to frame it the way the government did, in order to be able to deploy the Emergencies Act was so cruel and inhumane, right? And there was no reason for it outside of that, sending a message. And for me, whether it was the freezing of the bank accounts, of the trampling of the horses, you saw military veterans, like peaceful people, being beaten by the police. It was one of those things.
Can I stop you there just for a sec? Previous to that, have you seen the police being brutal, especially to old people? Because that is something that we saw in the COVID era. Police brutalizing grandmothers and pushing them over, pepper spraying them on the ground. We saw things we'd never seen before. Was it the same in Canada?
Yeah. And I think that's like again, I'm just going to, I have no proof of this, but I think a lot of what the mandates did was clear out people that had conviction, had principle, had morals, right? They cleared them out of the healthcare system. They cleared them out of the policing, out of the military, so they had these yes men that were willing to take orders and do whatever they had to do. And so I think the stage was set for that because they wanted to make a point in the end. And honestly, man, we still are fearful. A lot of Canadians are still fearful because of the chilling effect that came from that. Not only was there no accountability, they enshrined the ability to freeze bank accounts into law, right? And we have a very weak, I would say, a uniparty. We don't have an opposition here. It's all very much stage play. So we really don't.
Excuse me for a sec. I just want to have the ability to go snap, because you said two things in there. They go snap. So there's two snaps. No accountability, snap, and uniparty snap. Sorry, please continue, but it's like listening to my own country with a different accent.
It is it's creepy how the Commonwealth all seems to be facing the same kind of thing, and I don't believe in coincidences when there's that many patterns that we can point to and say, okay, no, there's a bit of coordination going on here. And so we were kind of left on our own, and still to this day, we don't have, the Canadians people are still traumatized. Like one of the main things I focus on is the amount of trauma and the lack of acknowledgement to that trauma. So everyone's still in a very easily spinnable, they keep hitting us. It's like if you're a martial arts fighter, the first round, you're fainting to get the nervous system of your opponent overloaded so that you can, you wear them down doing it that way. And there's been a very cyclical nature to how much they hit us over and over again. There's got to be someone in a room that's going, hit him again. So then we get all these bills, we get all these other things. There's so many, it's insane, that we talked about behind the scenes as far as what we want to cover tonight, but they keep doing it.
I don't know why I'm smiling.
Probably because it's like, there's that connectivity, that frequency of we're in the same, how far apart are we?
It's definitely, there is a connection between the people standing up against this that I've never had a connection with so many people like that. When we're at the Canberra, all the protests we're at, even though we infight a lot, there's still this incredible spiritual connection where you feel like, hey, I'm really comfortable with this person. We never do small talk. Small talks, we don't have the time for that. There's too many important things to talk about, and we're still trying to comprehend what happened because we've got PTSD, I'd say,
Yeah.
but so's the whole population.
Mhm.
We have a thing over here called the Forest of the Fallen, which is started by a woman in Selkie in Tasmania. So it's they go to parks and beaches, and they put like an A4, that's like a sheet of paper with a person's picture on it, and then whether they died of the vaccine or they were injured by the vaccine, and they just sway in the breeze, and people come and look at them, and it's a very gentle protest, but you can have 150 of them all over Australia at one time. Now they're going to the UK. But what is really interesting is it brings the people out. They come and they read it, and then they come up and go, I'm vaccine injured. I can't tell anyone.
Yeah.
And this is where they are. But I mean, it's almost like yesterday's problem though, because right now, if we're moving on, is I want to talk about C19 because we're facing the same thing here. So
C9.
C9, sorry. So tell the Australian population. Tell us about C9. Yeah.
It's there's twofold. There's a few bills, but I'll stay focused on C9 for now. It basically gives the government the ability. They're loosening up the laws in regards to going after people, very similar to what happened in the UK. You'll be able to be arrested for online posts. They're loosening the laws to a degree that it makes us all vulnerable. And the problem with that, even hate symbols, like when the government gets to define hate, right, it is a very difficult thing for someone like me who stands in the middle, right? I call everybody out. They're all corrupt. Not all. Again, we can talk about the Uniparty again, but I stand in the middle, and I see that there are so many people. Like free speech is a tenet, of any free society, right? And I think that for Canadians right now, we're in a bit of there's a state of shock, a state of paralysis that I'm trying to help people move through. And a lot of it has to do with the PTSD, like you mentioned, but we're in a very precarious situation right now with Bill C9. And we have a situation where our opposition leader delegates these kinds of things to subordinates, right? So if the opposition leader does not talk about it, it doesn't make it to the mainstream media. So Canadians are not informed. And the sad part of it is that he's done this with the WHO pandemic treaty. There's another one, Bill C8, I'll touch on briefly. Bill C8 will give the power to the minister, who's, again, the sole discretion of the minister to be able to cut me off from the internet, my cell phone, my email, everything. And they also have a clause in there where I can't disclose. They don't have to tell me why, and I can't talk about it publicly. Right. And so
that's the 1984 becoming a non-person, really.
Yeah. It
That's
is
what
really.
it is.
Yeah. And so for someone like me, it's like you have these situations, and the sad part is when you have a uniparty, it's like you have I guarantee you that the left would not like the conservatives to have this power, the right to have this power, and the right does not want the left, but they're so busy fighting each other. They just they got to win. And the other ones are kind of like, it's okay if he doesn't say anything, no big deal. We'll deal with it when it passes and stuff. And, he's got some good ministers and they're saying things. But like I said, our media is also co-opted. It's paid for. It's Pravda. We had Trudeau out here like bragging. The reason we get good headlines is because we give them $600 million, right? And so we don't have, like, even if you see in America, you'll see CNN, MSNBC, and then you have Fox, which is kind of the right wing. Again, I'm not endorsing Fox. I'm just saying there's at least a varied of opinion there. They're all echo chambers. But in Canada, we don't have that, right? And so if the opposition leader doesn't grab that microphone, use his podium to inform Canadians to start that discussion, all this stuff gets passed. And Trudeau stacked our Senate too. So most of the stuff it's called the Chamber of Sober Second Thought. But there are all these left-wing radicals in there that are just like, yeah, communism, let's do this, right? So we're in a tough spot. I put a post out earlier where it's like, if we don't overcome, like I've been spending a lot of time, I almost left X a little while ago because I just got so tired of describing the train wreck, but at the same time, I out of a sense of duty, I had to rebrand, had to come out, and I've started a new process of trying to take, bring bridge divides, bring people together, platform people that need to have, more exposure to what they're doing, because we're in a situation now where they won't let us heal.
No,
They won't let us heal because they need us in that weakened state so that we can be manipulated
that's right.
into staying shut, staying silent, not protesting. That fear is paralyzing people. But there's a lot of people in Canada as well that see it, that are liberated, but we can't organize because of all the infighting, right? It's like,
Can I
absolutely, go for it.
I'll give you a thing about the infighting. This is, I call it the black sheep paradox. And a lot of people in our movement identify as black sheep. I don't know if you're aware of that term in Canada. And and what I'm saying is the reason we didn't fall for the $1 trillion propaganda machine was because we're free thinkers and we got the courage to stand alone with our convictions and defend our convictions. And so basically the reason we didn't fall for it is because we're black sheep. But the reason we struggle to come together and form herds is because we're black sheep. It's the black sheep paradox. It's I think we can unite. I try to tell people over here, even though it doesn't always work, is we should be uniting on a platform of respect. Because if you're here now still fighting and you've been in this for 5 years now, no matter what amount of fighting you've been doing, you've earned the respect. You don't have to prove your courage or resilience to anyone. So we should have this level of respect, and then try to go from there, because the infighting happens here all the time. It's our biggest problem, really.
It is for us too. It is, honestly, like we try, and I used to be a community organizer, right? And so for that is you bring a bunch of people into a room and they've all got different opinions of what should be done, what's the problem, that kind of thing. And what the problem we have, I think, is codifying underneath them what is the mission, right? And I think that we often get lost in translation. On top of that, you also have people that their sole goal is to not allow that to happen for whatever reason, whether they're narcissists, whether they're government agents, whether they're just just so miserable, they're nihilist, they don't want to see anything positive happen. Some people even get a kick out of watching things burn, right?
Yeah, I hate to say it, that's the truth. These are the things. I think it would be naive of us to believe that with this amount of planning for what they're doing, like even the vaccine passports all coming out at the same time all over the world, even that, shows that there was great degree of planning behind all this. And so so it's naive of us to think that they wouldn't invest in infiltrating us. And finding those people who, for pay or whatever, would be willing to disrupt the movement. I actually tell people you should really keep an eye out for anyone prominent in the freedom movement who starts publicly attacking other people in the freedom movement, because you really have to ask what could their motivation be? Because we are the active ones all around the world are a minority. We cannot afford division, and yet that seems to be where we're at.
I fully agree, and it's like I get frustrated because I can, I see, even the other day I put a post out. It's like, should I start calling people out, right? Because but at the same time, it's like it's not my style. And there's been a couple times I've had to publicly distance myself from people, but it's none of their business why. I don't go behind the scenes and start to try and cause problems for people. Because in the end, we are, they took all the catchphrases from us, right? We're all in this together. It's like, convenient, right? No. You guys, but we are as well. And trying to figure out, like, hey, what do we agree on? Can we formulate principles? Can we formulate some level of, I hate saying code of conduct, but so many times people just, how do you check someone in the freedom movement that is literally just trying to derail everything? And whether it's for personal reasons, whether it's for an agenda, whether they even just had a bad day and decide to go off in a chat group and the group, just gets disbanded. I never lose sight of the end goal here. And that's, it's not up to me to define what kind of country people want Canada to be, but at the same time, I know that we're marching down this path. and so many people don't get it, right? They will focus on the minutia. They will focus on the subtle differences that you have, which is very much the left after the COVID event. It was so hard because there was a lot of betrayal, a lot of trust lost. I lost a lot of friends. Just for standing my ground, saying it makes no sense that I need to let the government experiment on me so I can have a Grand Slam breakfast from Denny's. Are you kidding me? Like, what are we doing here, right? But at the same time, we get trapped in this world of, for me, when I step back, I look at what is the number one problem, and it is the trauma, right? I did a your COVID story night call space a while back, and it was just giving people mics to come up. Because again, like I understood through community organizing that just letting people stand up, I got 150 people in an auditorium. I learned after a couple of times that's what needs to happen right off the bat. People need to be able to stand up and just let it out. And there would be anger, there would be tears, there would be rage. There was all these different things because people were confused by what was going on, because they don't see the value in themselves. And that's kind of what it is. Like, their number one tool is demoralization. So people can never actualize and come out of the cave and be like, where did that go? Right. Because we saw those people at the convoy. Where did it all go? Right. They were abused, and they're still being abused.
It's I just feel like saying snap constantly like a freaking parrot. It is so similar. Is the disillusionment is a huge weapon against us. People feeling worthless, like they're already given up. They go, we have people in our movement who go, we can't stop this. We can't stop digital ID. There's nothing we can do. Now, they might be correct, but you can't win a war if you're already starting from a point where you go, we can't win. This is what we're seeing. What the other thing we're seeing over here, which I'd say you're seeing over there, is that we get attacked constantly as grifters and all other sort of thing, that we're just doing this because we're just trying to make money, become. I haven't seen that money yet myself, but
me neither. I don't have a sorry. I don't have a subscribe to me. I can't do the coffee thing, because a lot of what it is, I'm not insulting people that do that, because a lot of people had to reinvent themselves. They lost work. They couldn't, I get it. But there are definitely grifters out there. But there's not a lot of money in this. I basically make enough to cover my subscriptions and all that, just to keep the machine going. But at the same time, it's a slant, and it's a way of cutting you down, people trying to discredit you. That's why you just got to get up every morning, got to stay true to yourself. You got to be authentic. If you make a mistake, own it, right? It's not about likes and clicks, retweets and stuff. For me, it's about, did I wake up this morning and do anything positive to try and help myself, at the same time make the world a little bit of an easier place for other people to that I care about, right? A lot of people I have not met. I've started, because I'm an introvert. I'm starting to meet more people in person, talk to them on the phone, because I miss that connectivity. I was an introvert. Like, again, I've lived a lot of my life by myself, and I'm okay with that. It's never a dull moment inside my head. But at the same time, that level of human contact, it is so desperately needed for so many people now. Like, and if we don't have that, if we don't have more of a understanding that kinship, and how to put your differences aside to focus on the greater cause, the mission, what is that? We have to be able to go through the storm together. And when you're carrying the weight, it's a lot easier when you're sharing that weight, when it's been dispersed amongst the groups. And you're how many thousands, tens of, however far you are away, we are still walking through the same storm, and recognizing that, and being able to find ourselves again in the process, so that when you wake up in the morning, it's kind of like you have to teach yourself, wake up in the morning to be grateful for what you have. You can't yearn for the past. There is no going back. The world has changed, but at the same time, there's an opportunity there to find yourself, right? To actually, who am I? What do I want to do? What do I have to contribute to the world, right?
It's incredible. I think not only finding yourself, I'm telling people, this is why maybe we should collect the stories. We haven't been on if you stood up against the government, and we used to be it used to be about the people that didn't take it, but now it's about some people who have taken 2 or 3, but now they've joined us. You know what I mean? So if you've basically said, no, I don't want to go the way of the government, you begin an odyssey. The first part of that is you lose family and friends, you might lose your job, um, and you suddenly have to look into yourself to go, well, do I have an arsenal? Do I have courage? Do I have strength? Do I have resilience? Can I, how am I going to get up here when it seems hopeless, but I've got to keep going? Like we were talking before about free speech. I've been realizing now we don't have it in our country anymore. And you can speak freely, but the freedom is what's the problem, because we've had activists thrown in jail for speaking. You lose your job for speaking. I was talking to a government employee the other day from Canberra. They said they can't speak at all. If they say anything out of place, they'll lose their jobs. They're gone, summarily sacked. So we don't have free speech in this country anymore. We have, you have to be prepared to pay the cost of actually speaking your mind, and you might get away with it, but basically, we had a Facebook page. We had 106,000 followers, and that had been 2 years where you weren't able to follow us or like us. So we got to that. So we would have been 200,000, and then they just took it down. No warning, you're just gone. And all we were doing was like in that one of those videos, was sharing the unedited voices of Australians, because I was going around Australia in this, or not just I live in this bus, and we're going around interviewing people. And in those days, people wanted to speak; they'd line up to speak. Nowadays, if I turn up at a town, they'll come up to meet me. I go, "You want to speak?" They go, "No."
Yeah.
They're actually more frightened now than they were then, because I feel they think something far more draconian is coming, which even have a greater degree of brutality to it, where basically, like you said, you vanish off the internet, which in the modern day world is the same as being sent off to a gulag, really.
It is. Yeah, people, sorry, people are all, I'm not saying gulags won't happen, but they don't
Oh, we
need
built
it.
them here. We got them. They're
We
all
did
over the country.
we did as well too for the, yeah, we have them, right? So, but I think that there's like stages to it. And so for me, if I was kicked off the internet, I don't, right? Like for me, if I don't have access to a cell phone, to email, I can't do business. No one will hire me, right? So it's a very precarious place to be. But I can remember in 2022, late 2022, I went for a walk on the beach, and I'm just like, I am not going to regret my decision. If I have to spend the rest of my life alone, I'm okay with that. Do your worst. My principles are my principles. I can't sell out. I can't sell out my friends, my family. I'm not going to bend the knee. Sure, I've been hit a few times and I take a knee, but you got to keep getting back up. And I think that now we're in a situation where a lot of people are fearful, and it's almost like this. They put us into, because if you didn't take it, right?
Yes,
then you were taken out of society, right? You were cast aside, right? And so now we're in a situation where it's almost like that with the parties in our country too. If you speak out against the party, they're fearful of being cast aside and having to face that again. So it's like being in a relationship with a narcissist, right? It's that love bomb, and then you're fearful of you're devalued, and then you're abandoned, and then all of a sudden you're back there again. So they have us continuously spinning. But if you don't, like you said, if you're not impacted by the $1 trillion machine, you're sitting there at 40,000 feet going, come on, guys. You can see it. What are you going to do? Are you going to wait until it's over, until everyone's kicked off the internet and no one has a voice anymore? So it's like, that's what is the flashpoint for us. And I think you guys are in the same position as us. We saw what happened in the UK on the September 13th. Again, I don't want to get into the actual details. It was just the ability for that many people to come together. And we're in Canada, biggest landmass, smallest population. It's very hard to get people to formulate on an issue, one singular issue. And so what will that flashpoint be? Will it be Bill C9? Will it be Bill C8? Will it be all of it? Digital IDs, CBDCs, all this stuff is right there. And you can see that they're trying to do
literally touch it.
Yeah.
You can literally feel it. It's coming.
And then the biggest problem for us, Michael, is the uniparty, because the people have this false savior thinking that this guy, that currently his name is Pierre Poilievre, the leader of the Conservatives, that he's the savior. But no,
Yeah.
no, no. He stays silent on everything that's important,
Yeah.
and he's kettling the Conservatives from getting angry. They let steam
Yeah.
off here and here, but they stay loyal to their leader, which leaves people like me in the middle. Like this, I would say, I'm center right. I don't like labels, but the center left, center right,
No, I
people
get
in
it.
the center. You're sitting there going, these cults. That's what they are. They're cults, right?
Yeah.
You're
Oh,
looking.
it's an actual cult, and
Yeah.
they call us a cult. I just want to go back one. They call us a cult, but I always say when the people call us a cult, I go, do you know the first rule of a cult? You can't ask questions, and we've been cast out of society for asking questions, and you guys don't ask questions. So I'm sorry, but it's and people asking if this is live. This is live. I just want to say hi because Kris has brought on people from for the Canadians watching Clown World. Good morning, Clown World. Oh, good morning from Australia. It's probably afternoon there. But in the comments section here, I'll bring them up. These are Australians because what we have is we formed into, so after our first major protest, we formed into smaller tribes. So Cafe Locked Out is a smaller tribe. Then there's another great podcaster called Hoodie and John Lada. They've got a tribe, and there's my place. So we're all still under the one banner, but we've sort of broken up into little tribes. And a lot of these audiences go between all of the different tribes. So this way of StreamYard of bringing in Canadians and Australians together is actually the point. One of the points of this is to show we're allies, but we're allies not against a foreign power, but against our own governments. Our governments are one of the main problems that we're facing, and the Uni Party is what we have in Australia too. And when we got
same thing in
kicked
the
out,
UK too. Sorry,
this
go
is
on.
what we're doing here. So this is so that was me here. We were it's Goodbye Road. These are stories from around it, because when we got kicked out, that's what I'm saying, it was Goodbye Road. Goodbye. You don't want to be part of society. See you later. But we had you can see those police officers there.
Same
and
thing.
so I went there with a sign that said, Australia, land of the free, as long as you do what you're told. A minute later, a friend who I have a friend now, I didn't know him then, Matt Lawson, got shot point blank in the belly with a rubber bullet. First time in like 112 years or something that the police had shot a protester. And then they pepper sprayed us all. And it was the moment where we went from realizing we thought Australia was this, and then these police officers turned up like stormtroopers, and they let us know with their weapons, no, you're not in Kansas anymore, guys. We are basically, what's happened really is COVID and everything that went around it swept in like a tsunami that stole away our identity. If you want an idea of what Australia is now, from a world point of view, sorry, imagine driving down a lonely highway. It's got a few potholes, and you pass a billboard, and it's got a few shotgun holes. It's rusting, and the poster is flapping in the wind. And there's Paul Hogan, who was our great ambassador for Australia, going, throw another shrimp on the barbie, and someone's graffitied underneath it, and your neighbor under a bus. That is modern day Australia. The larrikin has been suppressed. You go out places, and there's a great New Zealand film called Once Were Warriors, a brilliant film about the decline of the Maori men. Well, in Australia, I would say once were larrikins. And like I said yesterday, I went to a market, and there's so many men, they walk around like broken ponies rather than stallions. And it's just everywhere. And I think that's to do with the pain they've been through, the fact they've been forced to take a medical experiment they didn't want to. And also there's been an attack on men for decades in Australia. And now there's an attack on women, and this is an attack on women's rights. And this is something I want to bring up too. This is an attack on women's rights. Let's talk about this. This is a Canadian volleyball team.
not 3, not 4, but 5 men pretending to be females. 3 were on Seneca, 2 were on Centennial. Gee, can you imagine which side won? Not only that, the male players were always on the court. So you had biological female substitutes just sitting on the bench for the entire game.
It's insane.
And the feminists in Australia, because we've got teams like that here too. The feminists in Australia are behind the trans men or the trans women, and looking for their rights above the biological female rights.
It's lunacy.
It's lunacy from our point of view, but if you wanted to destroy society, if you want to pitch people against people, if you want to control people by dividing them and confusing them to what's right and wrong, so people out there want to do what's right, the government tell me what's right, basically 2 + 2 = whatever the government tells me it equals. It's actually genius.
It is. One-handed clap for evil as far as that goes. You hit it. That's exactly my position. And the big problem is that the ability for the narrative control, like a lot of you'll see these groups, these NGOs, you'll see a lot of these other, like, it is a very interesting web of how they push these, how they invert reality and are able to have it spread throughout a society. And a lot of it is through the uniparties for us on the provincial level as well as the federal level. But there, for me, like one bright point that I will point out is in the province I live in is British Columbia, and we have a uniparty with the Conservatives and the NDP, which the NDP, I don't know, is it hate speech to call them communists? Because if you act like one, then you can call them that, you'd think, right? But anyways, we had an election about a year ago, and the uniparty wanted to have a controlled narrative and didn't go their way. And so we had another party that's formulated. 1BC is the name, and they are the ones that are actually taking on the issues that are interesting, to say the least. For example, they just got, now it was a little less than a year ago, but this was the first week where we had for the first time in a very long time for me since the COVID event happened, that we had people in the legislature actually talking about the important issues, talking about Antifa, they had, I'm not sure if you're familiar with a fellow by the name Billboard Kris. He
got arrested over here. Okay,
so this week, for the first time, 1BC brought Billboard Kris in to talk about the harms with the ideology and the only 2 sexes and stuff. Nobody, our conservative leader of the BC Conservatives, told all of his MLAs that they weren't allowed to even attend to hear what was being said, right? And so right, and so that for me is inspiring, because on one side it is all about breaking that narrative bubble. You have to have the strength, the courage, the conviction to get up if you're in the legislature, because again, it's difficult, it's a new party, so they got 3 years to kind of build their, will they get reelected? It's going to be a hard road, but I think if they keep doing what they're doing, it's refreshing to see all these conservatives kind of panic, right? It's actually funny because there's a lot of, I'll land my plane just after this because it's kind of funny what's happening in my province. The conservative leader and his whip are so paranoid right now. They literally brought all the MLAs from the caucus into a room and searched all their phones because there was leaks coming out to the public. There's a lot of discord, a problem within the Conservative Party in British Columbia. But it's what needs to happen, right? As you wake up, you need to have people. It's one thing to go along with it, right? And the problem with politics is you need to get elected a second time to get your pension, right? So trying to tell a newly elected MLA, if you want to help save our province, if you want to help get out there, you got to go with 1BC. You have to break the chains and get in there and be disruptive. So that's one bright spot, at least from my province, because it was one of the worst. Like they were still trying to tell me to wear masks last year. And it's just like,
they keep trying to bring that back. That's a bit of hope, actually. The last few years, they've tried, every few months, they try to put the argument to get people to wear masks again, and people don't. You have a few odd ones, but when it was really happening, if you didn't wear a mask, you stood out. And it took real courage not to wear it.
Do you remember the eyes, the way people looked at you when you weren't wearing a mask?
I think the greatest lesson from the masks that really the lesson I learned from it was how much we communicate with this part of our face, not just speaking, but
Right.
there must be mannerisms or little things that we notice.
Subtle
That's how we
nuances, right?
communicate. So they basically cut us off from it. Was all about divide and
Dehumanize and
conquer and
divide.
start like
Yes.
this. We had a thing over here called "Staying apart keeps us together." Was their saying, and I was in Melbourne, so I was at the shrine. I got shot by rubber bullets that day, arrested there because and we did that. We got pushed to the shrine by the police, but we decided to stay there. They were trying to get us to walk away and get arrested off in the streets, but we decided to stay there. Not that we thought Australians would care, but we were hoping that the rest of the world would see, which is eventually what happened when they started shooting us. But there's been other things like that. But it's where was I going with that? It was different then, because then you guys had Trudeau, we had Dan Andrews, who was just insane,
Mhm.
and so we had clear enemies, which enabled us to focus on an enemy. Then I noticed Trudeau's gone, the Jacinta from New Zealand's gone, our leaders are gone. So now it's like, who are we actually fighting here? It's not as clear.
Not
So
as
it's like that,
polarized.
the
Yeah.
art of war. It's almost like the best way to fight a war is to not let the other side know they're actually in a war. And that's what I'm seeing in our country now. People say, oh, that's behind us, it's all gone. We're thinking, no, no,
No. In Canada, they
very
installed
clever.
Mark Carney, who was Trudeau's mentor, right? He's a like I could show you a video where he's like, some people call me an elitist and a globalist, and I am, but that's what Canada needs right now. And that's like one of the points with the election, right? It's like Poilievre, our conservative, when he was going against Trudeau, he was up 20 points, right? And then all of a sudden, the tariff thing with Trump, and we're standing here, it's like, oh, now, okay, everyone's elbows up. He attacked our conservative leader, attacked Trump, but at the same time, our conservative leader, ran on slogans: axe the tax, Trudeau bad. So what did Carney do when he came in as the leader? He got rid of. So in two birds, he stroke of a pen, he gets rid of the tax. Trudeau's gone. So now the opposition, for 3 years, all it was bring it home, axe the tax. And I'm sitting here going, okay, like I said, it took till last November for me to say this guy is a part of the problem. He's been groomed for this role. And then he gets hammered. He loses his own riding. He loses his own seat in Parliament. And yet everyone still thinks he's actually going to form government, right? And he still might, because again, we could probably get into a whole show about, are our elections actually fair, right?
Yeah.
What's that quote? If elections were actually fair, they wouldn't let us do it.
Yeah,
right?
that's correct. That's correct.
It's like the illusion, right?
Yeah, that's right. This is what I'm talking about. The identity. I know that Canadians have lost their identity, but we watch on in horror as Canada does things that chill us, because we know that they're coming here next. And that's another thing I want to talk about. I just want to say hi to Gary here, Gary from Canada, and the Remanded and others. Welcome to we've got an Australian audience live, guys. So
I know both of them. Hi, guys.
It's like a meeting of tribes here. It's really sweet. So most of my people are on Facebook and other things. So we've got Earl here from Texas. Earl's Trudeau killed his own brother. I wouldn't put anything behind Trudeau.
He looked strangely dissociated after talking about his brother Sasha that died in a snowboarding or skiing accident or something. Very disconnected, I will say. I can't go as far as your guest as far as what went on.
No. He's in Texas. He can say what he wants. There's I want to talk about maids, because I've actually interviewed Canadians about maids, and to me, it looks to me like these are abattoirs of the poor and unwanted, and it's letting the people know you have little worth if you're not an economic unit. If you're not producing something, then you're of no worth, and the best you can do is leave. So it's devaluing human life on a state scale. But what is your thoughts from what do most Canadians think about it? Are they for it?
Well, I think that it's like oftentimes it gets caught up, right? I think that if you are in a situation where you have there are circumstances where I think it could be applied, right? If the person still has cognitive ability, if they want to make that decision in regards to pain, right? End of life care in that sense. But what we've seen in Canada, it is way off the rails. It is even there was an article I think from 2022 in Forbes that described our euthanasia program as carrying Nazi era echoes in
Yeah,
regards to the way they were going about it,
eugenics.
right? And very recently, now I got to qualify this. I have been under the assumption there's been more organ harvesting up than what they've been letting us know. But recently there was a 38-year-old American that received a heart from a Canadian. They're saying it was the first heart transplant. So there may have been other organs. I thought it was more of an industry, but I can't prove that right now. But now we're in a situation now where it's becoming an industry where people that, like you say, if they don't have enough value, I used to be a crisis line volunteer. So for me, this is weird. Every moment of life that you have is precious, right? And so if there are ways to provide quality of life for an individual, depending on where they're at, but I think the sick part is a lot of them are probably vaccine injured, right? I don't know, this is speculation, but again, you traumatize a population, you put them into a very weakened state of psychological, a very weakened psychological state. They don't see any value. They're disconnected. They've lost family. They're depressed, right? And then you add the component of potential vaccine injury that has not been, we're the same, I believe. You can't talk about it here.
Oh no, they ignore you.
They ignore you.
Like the lowest rung in society now are the anti-vaxxers. Anyone who stood up to government, we're the lower rung.
Yeah.
But there is one subset below us, and that is the forgotten people, and they are the vaccine injured. If
Mhm.
you're vaccine injured in this country, you are forgotten, unwanted, go away. And this I just want to bring up with this made because so this is made for children and teens. And so the committee also suggests parents may not be consulted and would need to consent of the child's death via maids.
I'm
So
not sure if that is this actually, again, I'm this might actually be not-for-profit's way of bringing attention to what the laws are going to become in Canada.
yeah, that's right. This is what's coming. So
Yeah.
we did a story about this last year where they said they were wanting to do this, but it got put off. But basically, they're saying if you're a mature minor, and to me, let's be honest, a mature minor is somebody our age working working in a coal mine somewhere going, that's a mature minor.
A mature minor, yeah.
Yeah.
I think mature minor is a backdoor way of eventually legalizing pedophilia. To be quite honest with you, I
Yes,
do not
that's
think
exactly right. Which is also the way they're doing the cards. We got drag queens teaching kids in the school. That sort of seems to have backed off at the moment because there was so much backlash against it.
Mhm.
But what it is we did the story 2 years ago with some Canadians that they basically, you've got to say a 12-year-old son or a 15, 16-year-old son or daughter, and they go to the doctor and the doctor suggests euthanasia and they don't need your permission. They don't even have to tell you, the child doesn't even have to tell you. And I thought, can you imagine that? You're coming home and you're going, where's Johnny? And you're going, oh, he went to the doctor for, his antidepressant medication, wherever, and you call him up and find out that the child decided to leave and the state allowed that to happen.
Yeah.
How could you possibly survive that?
Mhm. Yeah,
You
it's
know
no
what I mean?
different than well, obviously it's different because your child is passed in that circumstance. But in BC, we have a circumstance where they don't even have to notify the parents if they're going to transition the child, and more is
Oh, we
coming
have
out.
that here. In fact, if the parents here questions it or challenges it, they can get in real trouble.
They can be
And I
thrown in
think you've
prison
got
here.
Canadians. I remember one man I wanted to interview in Canada was the guy who's refused to use his daughter's or son's proper pronouns, and they threw him in jail.
Yeah.
And this is happening in Ireland too. It's this similar, same sort of things. I think this is the healthy thing about having interviews and chats like this, is to let the world see you're not crazy, and this is happening around the world. At the same time, the other thing we're having here is our parliamentarians. I remember we had a woman on who's against late-term abortions. She said the ministers were dancing, the senators were dancing when they passed the late-term abortion bill, and what happens is, so now in Australia, that a lot of people don't know, a lot of people don't want to know, but if your child survives a late-term abortion, it is not allowed any medical care. It's not allowed to be touched or hugged. It just basically left to die. And we couldn't get our head around that. But what's happening now is that and we've seen this in America too, there's business now in these babies. There's business in baby parts, basically. And I think if there's any medication put into the baby to help their suffering, I think that's basically, how would you say it? It lessens the quality of the
value.
product, which is the baby itself. So and to me, this is evil. It's evil as a foundation of our country, and then now, well, the other half, we're going to have maids. So basically, we've got a humanity which is bookended by worthlessness. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And yeah,
It's very
it's horrendous.
predatory, right?
Oh, unbelievable! And it's how we got it. It's almost like for Canada and Australia, especially through Trudeau was something else. It's like it's like, we had Windows 10, you got down Windows 11, except this Windows 11 came with a whole new thing of moral concepts. Oh, morality now. Yeah, man can be a woman. We've got the guy like this. Look, this is the head of our anti-discrimination. She's paid almost $500,000 a year, and this is her. Watch. I don't understand the term biological man.
400K plus expenses, I'm assuming,
Yeah,
too.
yeah. Usually they're the ones with the dick, but she doesn't understand that. But but this is what we're going. You know what I mean? And if you want to get up in society, if you want to get promoted, if you want to work for the government, then you have to toe that line.
Yeah.
And that's communism.
Yeah.
You know?
My credentials in social work are no longer useful, right? Like, because I won't agree that there's 32 genders. I won't support the transitioning of children. I don't think the schools should be involved. I think the parents should be notified. If you're an adult, that's your business, right? I don't want to be, as a taxpayer, I don't want to be paying for it, right? Like, I think that, that level but if you're a child, like I said earlier, it's like how you treat your elderly and how you're the most vulnerable in your society is really where you can cast judgment on are you living in a healthy society or not. And when we have all these, I think, you're correct as far as evil. And that's the problem is that you see so much evil, yet those that are elected to try and, I think it's the same. Your politicians swear an oath to the crown, right? Not to the people.
Yeah.
So we're kind of like looking around going, where are the people? Where are the adults? Right? That can
Whoever
say
politicians are serving, it's not us. That's been very clear in Australia.
Yeah, and if you can stay silent, it's like Martin Luther King said, there comes a point in time where silence is a betrayal, and we're seeing here for 5 years where all of our elected officials, for the most part. Now, I can't say all because I said there's one BC that are swinging in there, so I can't say all anymore. But I'm okay with that. But the vast majority of our politicians, people say, oh, wait till the next election, we'll vote them out, and it's like, okay, but in the meantime, you're saying that the silence is okay because they can't speak out because the media will attack them. It's like, I come from behind the scenes. If you want to go out and address something, you can bait the media so that you can stand on conviction and set people straight. So at least the people know what you stand for. And what we have now is so much. It's all a stage play, man. It is all theater. Right, they're all making $200,000+ plus benefits. They're not worried about the amount of people that are in the food bank. They're not worried about inflation because we're paying for their food, right? So they're not going to care, right? So there's like a disconnect between I don't even like saying elite because that gives them like some special status. They're just human beings without souls, really, right? So they're demons in a sense, right? So to call them elites, I can't do that, but I can't look at my parliament and I'm just like, how much does it cost per year for all of you guys just to get up and screw us?
Yeah.
over and over again, right? And Canadians seem to want to take it. I don't know for how long. There's a part of me that is like, I'll never lose hope. I'm a relentless optimist, but I'm also very adaptable to my environment. I don't cling to things. I don't have as long as I see the colors, the color of the sky, the trees, I notice the birds, the flowers. That's my baseline. I'll throw some 1980s music, 70s music on just to kind of get my rhythm going. But it's in the moment. I think a lot of people need to start living in the moment, because if you look too far off, that storm can be paralyzing, but you can't not look at it. You have to see that it's there, but also be doing what you can to keep yourself healthy, to keep your mind, to keep your wits together. But at the same time, to sit there and pretend it's not happening isn't helping anybody. And to hand your power, which is what it is, you're handing your power over to a person who says, I'm going to make it better. Right? Since the inception of our country, well, we've always had liberal or conservative, red, blue, red, blue, red, blue. Where are we? Right? During the COVID event, the funny part is, you can show some of the conservatives in my country that it was Stephen Harper, a conservative in 2015, that signed Canada up for Agenda 2030. Cognitive dissonance. They will not believe that. And then for Agenda 2015, it was a conservative, Brian Mulroney. Right.
Yeah.
And so Stephen Harper implements 2030, signs us up for it. Right. Justin Trudeau comes in and starts implementing the Sustainable Development Goals. Everyone gets mad at Trudeau, and now they want to vote the Conservatives back in. Like, there's not at what point are you going to realize you're being bent over?
I know. It's really. I actually say we're going for an hour and a half. I'd like to talk about solutions now. And one of the first things, you can't fix a problem unless you can identify it. And I just want to know, because I think it's something we have to do over here. If a plane crashes, you have the aircraft, the crash investigators go in, and the planes cannot fly until they find out what happened to this plane. Might be a little screw, might be a crack, something, but all the planes are grounded till they know, for safety. And yet both our cultures have completely crashed. They're just, and yet we're not really talking about it. And I wonder if the freedom movement in Canada has done something I wish the Australian freedom movement would do, where it's actually taking some time away, even just like a few weekends, and where we go, okay, this happened to us. What have we done to counteract it? And out of those things we've done, what's worked? What hasn't worked? Why didn't it work? Is there anything we can do to fix it? What other new ideas are around that we haven't heard of? What's our destination? Where's our goal? Where are we in this?
Mm-hmm.
Is because I'm of the belief now that this is a really long-term fight.
Yeah.
And because some people are willing to accept levels of tyranny that I can't, but they are. And there's so many of them, they're taking us down like a lead balloon. So to me, I often think that it's like a marathon, but it's a relay marathon. And yourself, brother, and me, we're the first baton. We're not going to see the end. It's our job to sort of set the foundation of set the founding principles of the movement that it might take 2 more generations to see happen. Because what we're facing is that's what they've done to us. They've been planning this for an awful long time. We've just organically rose out. Anyway, that's this. Have you guys sort of had sit downs to go, okay, what have we done? What's worked? And evaluated the last 5 years from a freedom movement perspective to evaluate where you are and where you guys should go?
Well, I think it's like there's because there's so much fracturing even within the freedom movement. I can't speak for others, but I can speak for the identifying, of the infighting, the identifying of the PTSD, like as far as the causation, as far as why do we keep having false starts? What's the next move? And a lot of it is definitely by design. But I think that you hit the nail on the head. It's like founding principles, right? If you can cut through it, I did my first ever night call live stream on, the title of it was Robert's Rules for Unity. But it was one of those things as far as how do we start adulting this? There's always going to be disruptors, right? But always. At the same time, if you have a founding set of like a code of conduct, code of ethics, if you have the ability to stay focused on the mission, to not allow it to be subverted, to have reasonable expectations in regards to what your goals are. And they can be very incremental, because the problem we have is everyone's looking at everything. And that abyss, when you stare into that, I don't care who you are, you stare it too long and you will break, right?
Yeah.
You will lose objectivity, you will lose energy,
Yeah.
you will lose that ability to think critically, to think logically. Then you're no good to yourself, you're no good to your family, your friends, all the people around you. And I agree, it's one of those things I've been saying for years, this is a marathon, right? So I think it's like a recalibrating and going up to 40,000 feet. I will say positive, like a lot, since I started doing my shows and stuff like that, people have reached out to me and saying, you know, I've been talking to people on the phone, they have ideas. And these are the kinds of, the reason I did one of the reasons, because it was another fellow that came to me and said, hey, why don't we start focusing on bringing professionalism into some of these things that we're working on? And because there's so many people that have so many great ideas, but they need to remember, I said on the live last night, I said, you could be, if you're at home right now and you're watching this and you've got a solution to something and your book is this thick, you've been working on it for 2 years, right? This is what I want to do. This is what I want to go. It's like, okay, the first question I have for you is, you know, can you put that down into 10 pages? Can you put it down into 3 pages? Because you're going to have different groups, right? 10 pages is your walk-in document. That's your phase 1. This is what you need to accomplish with reasonable tasks and goals. The second phase is the 3 pages where you've got someone who's interested that you want to recruit, but you got to keep it simple. And the 1 pager is when you just are in the moment, you have a chance, the elevator pitch as far as what you're working on. But that book, that idealism, if you try to come out of the gate without having structures, because it's, again, if you build it, people will come. Yes, the ones that want to support you, fantastic, that they're genuine, they're honest, find out what their skill sets are, where you can plug them in and start building a sense of community. But the ones that are coming to take it over, the ones that are coming to tear you down, you have to have mechanisms. And it's not just you, it's like, you know, having a code of ethics is very powerful, to be able to say it's your conduct, this is not personal, right? But the will, because otherwise all these groups get infiltrated by people and you can never get off the ground. So really pulling it back and trying to help Canadians and other people around the world understand that, you know, you have value. Where do you fit? Are you a leader? Are you a follower? Do you like to prefer to walk with, right? So it's really having those internal discussions as far as what do you have to give as well. Where are you at in your healing process, right? So a lot of it is that reframing. The problem we have in Canada right now is there's a possibility that all these bills are coming at us because we are waking up so fast here.
Yeah, that's right. They're trying to hold off the storm. We have things over here. This is our new symbol. So we have a symbol called 832, but then 832 is from the Bible. It's the truth shall set us free. And a lot of people in the movement was going, I don't want to use it because it's part of the Bible. So it sort of reached a plateau. But it's still out there as a symbol. And we were looking for a Christian fish sort of style symbol, because one problem I realized was in the 60s, there was another group that was like us. They were cast out of society. They had no money. They didn't even have the internet. And yet they dominated a generation, basically. And that was through art, philosophy, and fashion, and that was the hippies. And you can we're still wearing that uniform now. We know all the songs from that era. And so I'm a big believer that art is one of the things that we haven't pushed as hard, like we opened with that great song from your friend. And now but we need a symbol. Now, we put out a thing in this post and approached us and said, have you thought of the Australian blue-banded bee, which is this little native Australian bee? It doesn't follow a queen. It doesn't live in a hive, but it still pollinates flowers. So it wants to be a part of society, but it wants to be a free-thinking,
doesn't want to be
human
ruled.
being. And what we're trying to do with it is, one of our problems is if I walk into a supermarket or like the market I was at yesterday, I don't know who my people are, because we don't have a hippie uniform. We don't have we don't have a Sikh, the turban. We don't have one bit of fashion.
No identifiable feature.
So if I'm walking down, and you'll say you've got a bee hat or whatever it is, I can come up and go, brother, how you going? And that lets us not feel so alone and overwhelmed, because if you're in a group and everyone seems to be on the other side, everyone seems blissfully happy, it's very hard to stay, to have a belief system that we can win this. So it's getting numbers that's another one. But
just to add a caveat to that, because the only way I
Sure.
can identify people for sure is you'll have mandate freedom stickers on bumper stickers. The most common one, even I live in a fairly woke town, but I think there's a bit of a misrepresentation there. But you'll see the F Trudeau bumper stickers. And the other day I was up in town and there was an F Trudeau bumper sticker on a truck parked outside of a pizza gallery. I just opened the door. I was like, hey, whose truck is that?
What was the sticker? What's
F
it say?
Trudeau. It said fuck Trudeau. So I opened the door and I'm like, any chance, whose truck is that? Mine.
This is really important because it builds networks. The other thing that I think in Australia that we're trying to do is that we have to become, and this is really controversial, there has been a group that's been persecuted. We've got Aborigines over here been persecuted since we turned up as Australians. But there's another group that's been persecuted. So the Aborigines are very powerful, but at the same time, a lot of them live off the government. That's just how it is. But the Jews have been persecuted for thousands of years. And let's be honest, a lot of them own the government. I actually think that we have to get to a point of being more like the Jews. And what I mean is we do commerce amongst ourselves. Every resistance group that has succeeded in history has been funded. And so this ideology we have where, no, I don't get any money. No, I don't do any money. Yeah, well, ideologically, that's great, but you're going to vanish into history. There's a group called the Edelweiss Pirates. Have you heard of them?
Nope.
They were Germans who stood up like us against the Nazis, but they just were infighting. They never got themselves organized, and they're basically just a slight footnote in history. They vanished. Even though when I was, they're very hard to find anything about. There's a movie being made about them apparently, but I can't find. But yeah, they didn't like the authoritarianism. They wanted to be free. And so to me, it's like there's lessons out there. There's a thing on the Einstein website called From Dictatorship to Democracy. And that documents a lot of freedom movements, what went wrong, what happened, because we've got history on our side. Infiltration is one. Disillusionment is another thing we've got to face. And then they said that our job in the start of this, exactly like you and I, is emboldening the 10% who want to join us but is not as brave as us, and trying to get that movement and focusing on small goals of that. And so to me now, I think we have to shrug off the thing that we're grifters and going, no, if we want power, we have to get commerce coming between us. So whether it's selling music and getting art or even Canada and America, and become a power like this, even to become enough power to be lobbyists way further down the line, because no one's coming to save us, Kris.
Nope.
There is no white hats. There is no army out there eventually going to turn up and go, hey, we're here, guys. Sorry, we're late. But it's us.
I think there's another example there too.
I think humanity itself, anyone who loves freedom, covets liberty, well, we're it. We're all you've got. And so we have to realize we have the great burden of that responsibility. And if we're going to be serious about it, then it's not to do with likes. It's not to do with your reach. It's actually cementing the foundation of a movement, a worldwide movement, based on exactly what you're saying, ethics and codes of conduct, because these small seeds now could literally grow into a forest that could support us. Because, and on our side, the thing on our side is, I say this all the time, and this especially to Canadian men, but it's Canadian, Australian men as well, and there's a lot of women in the movement. But basically, if you're a man now, all the state is offering you is shame. Shame to be a Canadian, shame to be straight, shame to be white, shame to be whatever, just shame. And you wrap that shame in silence and you take it to the grave as though you never existed. What we're offering you in our movement is your balls. You can die on your feet. You
Yeah.
might not win, but you'll die on your feet.
With
It'll be a
agency and
small
your balls.
victory for you
Yeah.
with your balls intact. And so to me, we've actually got a better product to sell. But
The
it's
feeling, right?
yeah,
Once you get people to that point of liberation, you're not paralyzed, you're not dissociated. You now
yeah,
are accepting that sense of I will say it, sense of individual sovereignty, but there's also a level of responsibility that comes with that when you are someone who cares about, your country, your people, your neighbors and stuff, right? So it's
yeah,
redefining it. And I will say that I fully agree. I think that so many people are trying to redefine themselves. Said this earlier, that I can't look back to what I used to do because it's just not a viable source
no,
of income, right? But I've been noticing, and I've been like attending spaces on X more, and that's one of the things I'm working on. I want to do an entrepreneurial X space, right? I know a
that's
great
a great
lady
idea.
that
That's an excellent
started
idea.
started a coffee company, right? So if I can get a night
Yeah,
called coffee going, but I know a guy who's an amazing carpenter. He makes beautiful tables and this kind of stuff. And so to be able to bring people together at the same time, it's like that's why I did recently. I'd love to do an international Canadian podcasters roundtable kind of thing, but I just did one for Canadian podcasters and for X Space hosts to try and help us, intermingle in regards to
yeah.
what we're doing on.
Share ideas, man.
Yeah, and if you're an
It-
author, if you come on, if that's what you're doing,
Yeah,
like
we
we
need
have,
writers. We need
yeah,
poets. We need singers.
we need exactly
We need
painters, we need all of
architects.
it.
We need we need everything. We
Yeah,
need to really and we need entrepreneurs
huge.
because that's really what we need. How can we monetize this? How can we get money coming in? Like in Australia, we've been saying, why don't we get a range? We call them over here op shops. It's secondhand clothing stores.
Mhm.
Um, the ones that we hear are all corporatized now, and they're expensive. You almost go in saying, "Hey, it's supposed to be opportunity for us, not you."
Same here.
And but so we could get that, So suddenly we're sort of getting in society. People go, "Oh, those freedom people, yeah, I don't like them, but their clothes are cheap."
Right. You're
You
caring,
know,
right? There's a turnover, there's a way for employment, there's a way for, building a sense of community because you have a
great, Kurt.
volunteer crew and stuff. So
Yeah,
many things. It's in one of the examples you mentioned with being more like the Jewish community. It's like there's examples in the American history where the African Americans, they came
the
together, they
Amish.
tried. The exactly.
Yeah,
There's mechanisms there to be able to do it, but it's like changing your mind, switching, right?
yeah,
Reprogramming your mind to realize that there are so many of us that are in the exact same position. So where's our
yeah.
gulch? How do we bring us together in a way that we can be able to do more? Because that's the problem, right? Is if you don't have the ability to take care of yourself or your family, or you're just scraping to get by, then you're
Yeah, it's
limited in
hard.
what you actually can be able to do. But if we were to leverage and use those skill sets to come together, that's also showing a way of building a team and cutting through the infighting when you were focused on not just your individual self, but you're also trying to help others in how they reinvent themselves. So if you've got the skills to help with that, whatever it is, entrepreneurial or whatever your
Mm.
niche is, start reaching out to other people and start building a network. You could even bring a bunch of crafting people together and start setting it up. You've each got a table, share the cost for the venue, do what you got to do to
Absolutely.
be able to bring people together and that sense of community.
Absolutely. We've got a lady over here. She makes mugs. She lives in a country town. We call her Margie's Mugs. So she makes mugs for the freedom movement. She goes down to Kmart, prints them up, and gets them out, and then sells a little bit of money, sends it to the freedom fighter or whatever the group. So I call it the army of light. Basically, we don't have a general, we don't have a brigade,
No.
we don't really have anything. But if you stand up and you're trying to do something, then you're part of the great army of light because
And it's
there's a darkness
hugely,
there's
it
a
fills your
darkness
soul in
taking over
doing
the
it.
world.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And everyone
and
has
that
the
gets you
ability.
to join it. Yeah, there's another thing too is when you were saying about ideas, I think it's very healthy uh, to have the movements around the world. I mean, there's even movements. I've interviewed people from Finland and Holland and wherever we can find people. No one from Africa yet, but we're all the same. It's all the same conversations. But I think what would be good is getting us together to share ideas. What's working? What's uniting us? Can we get, imagine if a Canadian and even like AI now with AI music, we're going to finish with an AI song about Epic, but we wrote the lyrics, but AI did the music, and there's a lot of people hating it, but I'm saying, yeah, but we can react very quickly. If something happens, you can have a song ready to go that day. And if you look back at the hippies, the protest songs of that movement, we still know the words of those songs. We still can sing "The Times Are A-Changing" by Dylan. We can sing them because that's the power of art, and it's bringing people together. So, but yeah, I do think if we can realize, like, say you and I, Kris, you're always a pawn in history, and it's who's with the powerful using it or whether you're using it for some other force.
Right.
And I feel like there's a guy on here from Canada. I don't know where'd I put you, brother. He was talking about truth. We need truth tellers that don't block the whistleblowers. One thing I've noticed, and I'll just see it was the same in Canada.
Kirk.
We think of truth like a golden bullet. We'll find this little bit of truth and that'll wake everyone up. Well, we've had so many golden bullets in Australia, and they don't work. No one gets woken up. And I think one of the reasons is that there I am. I've got $1 million mortgage. I've got my kids in schools. I've got car loans. I've got this job I'm holding on to. And you tell me a truth about society. It's all corrupt. They're trying to endanger your kids and everything. But I want to join you. But we have nothing for them. So he goes, if I join you, I've got to lose my house, lose my family, maybe lose access to my kids, lose my job, become financially broke, and get a cardboard sign with freedom written on it and go down and get pepper sprayed. It's, do you know what I mean? That's what is fundamentally wrong. But if we had commerce, if we suddenly got behind businesses that were working, and so we can start to offer a way for people to make a living like the Jewish did. You know what I mean? This is
Take
their
care of their
path. I'm
own
not saying we've got to
mentality.
become that ideologically, but they've set the path of no one helped them. They built it themselves. Now they're an extraordinarily powerful community. And I think we could be at the start of that, like the seed level. And it's us coming up and going, well, if we want to become something that can liberate our children, because you, Kris, and I now, and to all the Canadians watching, Australians watching, the decisions that we make now with these our little brief time in the light of life, the decisions we make now will reverberate through time, and the quality of our grandchildren's liberty will depend solely on these decisions we make now. And if we do nothing, we enslave them. But if we do something, there's a chance that maybe they could be born into a freedom that they'll just take for granted, but they won't actually realize that freedom that they take for granted was actually fought for them by us, because we did what had to be done. And so this is where I think it's really important that we have these conversations and we spread ideas and we try to motivate people into problem solving. But the first part of problem solving is identifying problems. And we're very good at identifying problems, what the government's doing to us. But after 5 years, I feel that it's time for us to identify, okay, what are the problems in the movement? What's holding us back? Why aren't we blossoming like we feel that we should? Yeah, I'm sorry, I rant over, brother, but...
Don't apologize, man. That was perfect. And we were very much aligned on that side of it, right? On one side of it, we identify the problem as far as the government. But if you keep pointing the finger at the government, we only get such a short time on this spinning ball, right? We can see the problems there, but what are we doing with ourselves? So first of all, I would say your health, your mental health, those kinds of things, to rebuild yourself, to get to the point where you can take those next steps. And then we talked about it earlier, right? It's the infighting as well as the lack of commerce. A lack of ability, because so many of us that were cast out had to restart. It's one of those things where and to be able to do that in a way where it is done is it a parallel economy? No, but it is an economy that is supported by those that were affected by it and have the ability. Because most, again, if you're providing a service, if you're providing a product, then you're not asking for a handout, right? So you can get over that hump as far as the shill and all the other things that they may prevent people from embracing that entrepreneurial spirit. And if you're not entrepreneurial, you probably have a skill set that can help an entrepreneur
Yeah, that's right.
in their growth, right? And then it's about community and having I don't want to say necessarily centralized, but again, I see your B button and stuff. I want one, right? So it's one of those things where it's like being able to identify those within a community, being able to, because again, international commerce, these kinds of things, we're not alone. I'm not alone in Canada, but there's a lot of us that are experiencing the same thing that I'm sure a lot of Australians are experiencing. Like you said, Finland, Switzerland, nobody was untouched in the Western world in that sense, as far as being under the Commonwealth or even within the European Union. But how do you bring them all together, right? You have to have that spark and then start doing that, to start trying to put those pieces together. And like I said, it was one of those things. I was in a space and lady talked about I started a new coffee company, and I'm like to myself, I'm thinking, okay, I just started a new initiative called Night Call. I'd like a nice espresso, just having those discussions, because I know not only does she have a product and I have a need, yes, but at the same time, it's supporting one another, right?
That's correct. That's correct. If you're in your area and there's someone in the freedom movement who's a gardener or a carpenter, you use him or her.
Yeah,
exactly. This is we get and we only go outside the community if there's no one in the community that can actually do it. So this is what and that builds networking. It builds respect amongst the communities. There'll be things, no, we don't rip each other off. This is what we stand for. So we might not ever reach the country that we wish we could, but we can act like, well, if we were there, this is how we would act within our community. These are our standards. This is our principles. And so we live like that. There's a thing over here, I say it a lot, is we have enormous bushfires. You have them in Canada too. But you have these enormous fires that leave the landscape completely black, and it looks hopeless and desolate. And yet you come back in a few weeks and there's all these little green shoots. And you come back in like a year and those green shoots are now really flourishing. And you come back in 10 years and those shoots have become the new forest. Well, I think the freedom movement around the world is those green shoots. But instead of acting like we're already at the forest and we want to bring things down now, and I want to be the one that brought the government down, I think we actually should go, we are the first green shoots. And we have responsibilities to people who will never meet. And that is to sort of build the foundation and address the problems and enable sort of a ground bed where growth can happen. Because say you can be an entrepreneur. Well, one of the things about entrepreneurs, I mean, they're fantastic, but a lot of the time, they can't make the idea happen. They need people underneath that go, okay, I'm doing the man that does the dots. So I'm the woman that does the dots on the eyes. You need me to take this great idea to make it work. You need me. And then we need distributors. So these are things that I think is the way we should grow in the conversations we should have. And even more is imagine a global connect or a global network or brain group where we sat down and said, what is our destination? Where are we actually going? Because maybe one of the reasons we're so disconnected and infighting is that we don't see the destination. So we're all heading in different ways instead of going, that's where we're going. And so our ideas and energy would flow towards it. We're sort of floundering around a bit,
Yeah. And a lot of it comes down to loyalty to a person or no. We have to get really right back to what the idea is, what the principles are, what is the functional infrastructure that we can all agree to be loyal to in that sense, right? And on the other side, a lot of entrepreneurs, they get stuck in idealism. They need people to actually simplify it for them, phase it out to make sure, have your checks and balances to make sure you can, as you're going through the process, to help actualize the ideas. And just to be able to have brainstorm sessions like that, right? There's a lot of different skills. Entrepreneur, the idea is great, and the energy, the motivation, like there's a lot that comes with entrepreneurship that can feed your soul. But sometimes you just can't get out of the starting gate because you don't have the other technical expertise around you to be able to simplify it for the person so they get out of their head and actually look at this. Step 1, 2, and 3, perfect. I can cover that. Step 29,
exactly right.
I'm not even looking at step 29 right now.
No. We need the people to do this and the other thing too, because I know we have our movement is full of personalities. I think one of the really important things is realizing everyone in the movement is dispensable because it's too important. We're talking about the liberty of generations that we're never going to meet. They don't need to know our names. All we need to do is that we're doing it for other reasons than fame, well, there's no money. There's other reasons than money. We're actually doing this because it's fundamentally the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Every generation, especially, and this is for men and men out there. One of your main. I remember when my son was born, and he was in my arms, and all I felt was like life was going. You are no longer the end story of all the stories of all the people who've gone to make you. You are now just a page, and your son will now take the story forward.
Mm-hmm.
But my responsibility is to try do with what's in my little life, is to try help him and the next generations for this. I know I'm banging on about the same old thing, but that's the power of us. We have a responsibility not to just buy a house, not to just have fun, which is great, but it's actually we have a historical responsibility to help the next generations flourish. Because at the moment, we're the first generation where they're going to die sooner, they're going to be poorer and everything. And that's on us.
Mm-hmm.
We let this happen in our lifetime. We let them build the cage around us when we weren't looking. We only really saw once they shut the lock for COVID and suddenly we're what? Lockdowns, what? And here we are. Yeah.
In the new world. That's why it's like what you said, like to kind of paraphrase, we all need to be gardeners, right? We got to be planting the seeds for those that are not yet here.
Beautiful, man. Yeah, maybe we should call ourselves that, the gardeners, or something like that.
Got a funny ring. It's got a good ring to it. Just planting
man.
seeds, right? Very, very non-authoritative, non-aggressive.
That's it. I mean, look at those, or you can see these old proverbs, and they say, the greatest leaders are the ones that plant the seeds of a tree that will grow, that will provide shade that you will never experience. I don't think that's the proper words. It's dumb.
I know the quote, but yeah, it is. You'll never see it grow.
That's what we've got to do. And that's a great gift because you're able to find great purpose in that. Purpose that's beyond just you trying to make something out of your own little life. You're a part of a great struggle because the powers that be have always tried to enslave us. And it's our duty to always strive or basically strive towards liberty, struggle towards liberty. It's not a
dance
gift
along the way. It's also, you can have fun with it if you can get into the mindset of understanding your limitations at the same time. Don't let them in your head, right?
Yeah,
you got to be able to still find joy in life. Don't forget to live, right? And that's why right now it's kind of like, you're 5 years in, you have to reevaluate where are things at and how do you start building that sense of community, because there's a lot of Canadians that are kind of like restless, but where are you going to put your energy, right? Because again, stress is just going to take years off your life. And so you have to be able to figure out a way to work through it. And then if you can contribute positively to your own life and to other people's lives, that's the food for the soul, I think, that really keeps us going, through all of the storms, right? That be the light. But when we are all together, that light shines a lot brighter,
Oh, it's beautiful, man. Yeah. That's what I'm going to finish on. This is, so to all the Canadians watching, your truckers convoy was such a beacon of light that we were watching it like crazy. And then over in Australia, one man, I believe, Jim Greer, that's the myth, said, let's go to Canberra. And suddenly from around Australia, people drove to Canberra to protest. It was the biggest protest in Canberra's history. That's our state capital. We think it's Australian history. There was so many people there. But that was inspired by the Canadians. And to all you Canadians, we have shed blood together before in the pursuit of freedom. We've done it in the First War, we've done it in the Second War, we've done it in other minor wars. Well, this is the greatest war we've ever faced. And we've done it before, and I think we can do it again, because this is just our burden or our blessing, whichever way you want to look at it. Yeah.
Right.
Fantastic to meet you, Kris. Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it, brother.
We'll
And
do it
let's
again
stay in
soon,
touch.
man.
We got a big event coming up in November. I'll get in touch with you about that. Maybe touch some, and I'll send a thing to you so you can maybe spread around Canadians, because we'd love Canadians to come on and really help. And it's a digital ID protest, but I'll be in touch with that.
Okay.
But apart from that, to all you Canadians out there watching this morning, it's a pleasure to have you on. We're from Australia. We're a small group called Cafe Lockdown. We're a part of the freedom community in Australia, such as it is. And it's been an honor to have Kris on and to share our stories and hear the stories of our Canadian brothers and sisters. And this is called, this is a tribute to Epic. This is when we all came to Canberra, and this was inspired by you guys. And so we'll always be grateful for that. Godspeed, Kris.
Thanks again, Michael.
No worries.
We came down from Darwin with the dust in our veins. We drove across the Nullarbor, driven by change. There were convoys from Melbourne and busloads from Cairns, where we camped at Wodonga and fueled up at Pheasant's Nest. And there were tears of hope singing through our liberated eyes as we scrawled freedom forever across our government's lives. As we scrawled freedom forever across all our government's lives. And we didn't come to start a war, and we didn't come to hate. Instead we came to remind you that we were still your mates. And we didn't come to start a war, and we didn't come to hate. Instead we came to remind you that it was not too late. But our country had gone crazy, corrupted by fear. And before us the long path was already flooded with tears. Yet in Epic we were dancing, for we knew what we'd done. Together we'd made the birth of all our freedoms. And this new cry for liberty were the smiles in our hugs, as the cops haunted our periphery like tyranny's new thugs. But for one night in Canberra we knew we were aglow, and our luminance was shining like a beacon of hope. And we didn't come to start a war, and we didn't come to hate. Instead we came to remind you that we were still your mates. And we didn't come to start a war, and we didn't come to hate. Instead we came to remind you that it was not too late. So never forget how, by just being authentic, we drew a deep line in their cold sand, from a showground called Epic So sing like you've never sung before. Sing now like your soul's found its wings. Sing out like an echo through our time, until our grandchildren are born humming our lines. Until our grandchildren are born in the freedom's warm and glorious light. Until our grandchildren are born in the freedom's warm and